Good evening everybody, a somewhat slightly different video this time to the ones that I've done in the past. This one is about a person, and this video is about a girl called Kathleen Alice O'Brady Jones. I know that some of you will know the story, and I know that some of you will have heard me talking about this quite a lot because it's something that I've done a massive amount of research into, none of which I'm actually, well, not much of which I'm putting into this video because honestly it would just go on and on and on. And obviously it's stuff that's not massively interesting because it's about the earlier life of the family before they came to Wallsend. So basically, the Reverend William Marlowe O'Brady Jones was the vicar of St Luke's from 1892 until his death in 1908. He was born in Ireland in 1856 and he had served in many churches around the country, his daughter Alice having been born in 1883 in North Wales. Reverend O'Brady Jones came to St Luke's in 1892, having left his previous post in Alnwick. The family's younger daughter was born in 1893 in Wallsend. At Easter time in 1894, Kathleen, who was then aged 11, was rehearsing to play a violin solo as part of what we would now call a concert, due to take place at a later date. The rehearsals were taking place in the Cooperative Hall in Carville Road. At the start of the rehearsals, a number of young lads had been spotted there. They were just there as spectators and they were seen to have a revolver with them. This was taken from them, and upon examination it was found to be unloaded, and so it was given back to them as it was clearly seen to be safe. At around 5 p.m. on the day that the rehearsals were taking place, they had basically ended and everybody was leaving the hall. The boys with the revolver had gathered around the front entrance, which was where everyone was leaving from. A shot was heard and Kathleen fell to the ground. She'd been shot in the temples by a single bullet. Dr. Henry Aitchison, who was sent for, and at the time he was living in the house at the top of the avenue, which I know a lot of you have talked about the house there, so you can imagine it's not that far away from the co-op on Carville Road to where he actually lived. But sadly, by the time he had arrived, it was already too late and Kathleen had died of her injuries. Later that evening, a boy named John Dewar, who was 15 years of age and lived with his family on the green in Wallsend, was arrested, as it had been him that had fired the fatal shot. At the inquest in the Wallsend Cafe on Station Road, Robert Anderson, aged 14, of Biggs's Main, I believe his father was quite high up in the pits. I think he was a manager or something. I can't remember without that. I didn't do that little bit to go with this, but never mind. Said that he had bought the gun at the big market in Newcastle the previous week and had been using it for shooting practice. He could not remember if he had loaded it in the hall or offer any explanation as to how it had happened when it had been empty when it was given back to them earlier that evening. John Dewar had been playing with the gun, and on pointing the gun at Kathleen it had gone off. He was charged with causing death and remanded in custody. The case was later dismissed as the magistrates all agreed that the shooting had simply been a tragic accident. The accident did bring about a change in the law regarding the sale of firearms to young people. Kathleen was buried in Church Bank Cemetery on Easter Sunday, March the 31st. So I'm just going to read you a couple of quick extracts from some of the newspaper articles that were around at the time of the case, and I'm just going to move across to the next photo on the screen. Well, I'm going to try if the computer will let me, which it doesn't want to, which is actually the O'Brady Jones family, which was taken after the accident. So we don't actually have a photo of Kathleen, so we don't really know what she looked like. So anyway, these are the couple of newspaper extracts that were around at the time. So this one is about John Dewar and where they decided that he would not be sent to prison, etc. At the Tynemouth County Petty Sessions yesterday, John James Dewar, 15 years of age, an apprentice engineer living at Wallsend Green, was charged on remand with causing the death of Kathleen Alice O'Brady Jones at Wallsend on the 28th of March, I am assuming, by shooting her with a revolver. The accused pleaded guilty to shooting the girl, but entirely under the impression that the revolver was empty. Superintendent Taylor said the police offered no evidence. He attended the inquest and he thought the shooting was purely accidental. The chairman, in discharging the accused, said the bench strongly sympathised with the family of the deceased child and also with the accused, who for the rest of his days would regret the sad occurrence which was laid at his door. The interment of Miss Jones on Saturday, actually that's strange because it says, in other information it said Sunday, so it could have been Saturday or it could have been Sunday. I'd have to look that up and find out what the date is, which I'll do later on. Anyway, the remains of the late Miss Kathleen O'Brady Jones, who was accidentally shot dead with a revolver, were interred at Wallsend. The interment took place in the presence of thousands of sympathetic spectators, and the coffin was covered with wreaths and flowers sent by many people in the neighbourhood and from elsewhere. On every side, expressions of condolence were heard for the father of the deceased, the Reverend O'Brady Jones, for his sorrow-stricken wife, and for the relatives of the unfortunate lads whose reckless handling of the revolver was the cause of the accident. And then finally this one, which is upwards of £120, has already been subscribed towards the proposed testimonial to the memory of the late Miss Kathleen Alice O'Brady Jones. This is that testimonial plaque. The unfortunate young lady who recently lost her life by a shot from a revolver in the Wallsend Cooperative Hall, it is understood that the memorial will assume the form of memorial vestries in connection with the church chapel, I think that's what it says, with a marble tablet and inscription. The total cost is estimated at about £300, and the committee feel assured that the sum will be raised without effort. So heartily has the project been taken up by the working and middle classes in the town and district. The final two photos that I'm going to show you are where, like I say, I've done an awful lot of research and I wanted to find out where Kathleen was buried. I knew it was Churchbank Cemetery, but I didn't know where. Eventually did find the grave of the William Marlowe O'Brady Jones, who died in 1908 and was buried with his daughter in Churchbank Cemetery, but I couldn't find her until eventually I discovered that the actual part of the headstone with her name on had unfortunately fallen over. So this is the underside of the bit of headstone that you can't actually see, where you can obviously see her initials and the date, and this is the actual grave itself in Churchbank Cemetery. We have recently been given permission to try and tidy the grave up and to try and lift that part of the headstone. Well, probably not us that will be lifting it, it will probably be somebody else, so that this can be visible, because it is a story that's part of Wallsend that I think you know we need to see her name on there, because it's a shame that you can't see it. So hopefully that's something that will happen in the future when everything settles down again. I know a slightly more somber story, but something that, as I say, I've really always done an awful lot of research into this, really interested, wanted to find out what happened. So I hope that everybody has enjoyed this video, and I shall see you all next week.